Hello, this is Nadia, and this is She Builds Again. And today we're going to be talking about how I made my biggest goal a reality. So, 5 years ago, I wrote down a goal that honestly felt so impossible. I didn't have the money, the confidence, or even a clear plan. But today, it's my reality. I'm living in Southeast Asia, meeting soul aligned people, and learning and growing constantly. So, in this video, I'm going to share exactly how I turned that dream into something I can touch and live every single day. My dream for so many years was to move and relocate overseas, to live internationally, to live in a different culture, a different part of the world that was interesting, where I could actually live a beautiful quality of life, where I could stretch my dollar further, but just in general, where I would meet incredible people and where every day I would be lit up because I'm learning new things. I'm interested in the culture, I'm interested in just the way of life. And what I realize is sometimes when you are from a specific part of the world, it can impact so many areas of your life and you don't even realize it. It impacts your routine, it impacts how you think, it impacts just everything about your day to day life. It impacts the things that you do, your activities. And so I remember my life was so simple, and maybe in some respects that's a beautiful thing, but it was also very boring and I felt very stifled. I felt like literally my life was going home, watching TV, or maybe doing something with my son, and then waking up, going to work, doing the same thing over and over again, feeling a sense of dread on Sunday nights because you have to start all over on Monday, and just not having a sense of fulfillment in where I was. I've always loved travel so much. And so I knew from a really young age that being able to travel to a different world and not just go for a few weeks, but to actually live there and find out about the culture and to live a different kind of life really spoke to me. I didn't want to do what everyone else was doing. I didn't want to live just an ordinary life that I would just forget about. I wanted to have adventures and stories I would be able to tell my grandchildren about. And so that is literally what stoked a fire in me to live a life less ordinary. Back in my early 20s, I was a journalist. I remember talking to all these people that were doing such cool things. They were retiring early and moving to Costa Rica, or they were starting businesses. And I realized as I got into my late 20s that I didn't just want to be a reporter that was writing about other people living these awesome lives. I wanted to take the pen in my own hand and write an incredible story for me to be able to live out and really admire everything that I was learning and becoming in the process. And so that's exactly why moving overseas was so important to me. I was able to make it a reality after maybe 2 or 3 years of consistent planning and preparation and saving. And I would say one of the biggest things that turned this from just something I talked about to something I was actually pursuing was I surrounded myself with people who were also doing incredible things. I surrounded myself with women who were also moving to other parts of the world. I was looking at their stories. I remember looking at YouTube and just consuming this CNBC made it content because it was just so inspiring seeing people who had done the work and saved the money and taken the steps and actually just took the leap and moved to somewhere they had never been in some cases or somewhere they'd only been once and just made it work, made this new life work and had the most incredible adventures and milestones along the way. But just because the desire was so strong in my heart doesn't mean that it made it any easier. I remember thinking, this is really impossible. When I first told my husband about this dream that just wouldn't go away, he had heard about it for many years. But when I first sat him down and just said, we have to make this reality, he said, okay. But he had this condition that we had to save this huge lump sum. I had never had that much money before in my entire life. I had only ever saved maybe like 20 or 30,000. I never saved this much money that he was hoping for so that we would have a nest egg and be able to support our son and be able to just make sure that if anything didn't go our way, that we'd be able to course correct and just have a good nest egg. And so that's exactly what we did. He recommended that we save $100,000 and we really did divide and conquer with the goal. And so he really focused on spending his money and his paychecks on our day to day expenses. And I just squirreled away all of our money, our savings, and just had by the end of 2 years the money that we needed to make this move a reality. In addition to just the financial preparation, what I found was that there was a lot of mental work that I also had to do to prepare and step into this new life. And so I remember I worked with a coach at the time because I really wanted to make a successful transition. I wanted to make sure that I was acknowledging the cloudiness in my brain, that I was actually taking steps to make this dream a reality. So, one of the things that shifted for me during that time was I really started to close the door in some of the areas of my life back home. I remember I had so much stuff that we had to go through and give away, and I just started literally just giving it away, bags of old kids' clothes and toys, throwing some things away. I try to do this as early as possible because I just didn't want anything holding us back, either physically or mentally. I realized that in order to step into your new life, you really do have to be willing to open your arms, surrender, and get rid of some of the stuff from your old life. You cannot cling to it because it's literally going to slow you down or hold you back. You have to be willing to let it go. And that's also something that I found with my own hurts and pains. When I got to this part of the world, I had to be willing to surrender. I had to be willing to work on some of the things that were holding me back, even within my own marriage. We had gone through so many ups and downs, and we had already been married for 8 years by the time we made the move. And so it was so important for me to actually do the inner work, to start to heal, to start to forgive, to start to really walk out this new chapter and have hope again that things in our lives and our relationship could get better. I remember there were a couple moments where even though we were on this road, we were saving money consistently, we were getting rid of stuff, we had a date in mind for the move, we were checking out schools over here for our son. Even though we had done so much of the work, I still remember this overwhelming fear that I had about what if we go to the other side of the world and it doesn't work? What if my husband risks losing his job because he's had to quit or leave and go to another side of the world? What if my son hates it? Or what if, he doesn't make friends? Or what if he doesn't fit in? There were so many fears that I had. And so I remember at one point we did this activity, I believe it's by Tim Ferriss, and he talks about fear setting. And what he really does challenge you to do in this activity, you can look it up and do it yourself. It's really, really helpful. But what he does and what he challenges you through this TEDx talk where he explains it is that you really have to put yourself in the situation where you consider what are the worst case scenarios? What is the absolute worst thing that can happen? Name it, put it down on paper. Let's say that your worst fear is that you lose your job. You're going overseas, you want to stay on as a consultant, but you're not sure how your boss is going to react, and you still have to talk to them about it, and you're still planning on going whether they keep you or not. Let's say they don't keep you. Okay, so what are your options if you know that's the worst case scenario? You could prepare and you could start to look for other jobs. You can make a list of places that are hiring. You could even think about other careers that maybe you've always wanted to start. Another thing you could do is make sure you have that nest egg like we did. You can make sure that you have 20K or more saved so that even if you don't work for 6 months or 1 year, you're still able to cover your basic expenses. And so knowing what the worst case scenario is allows you to have a plan if that ever did happen. I think one of the things that's so cool about this exercise is it helps you to realize that a lot of the times we think about the worst case scenario, but it doesn't actually happen as bad as what we think it's going to be. And so just keeping that in perspective, but also preparing in case something bad did actually happen, and knowing that you do have options. Even if something really bad happens, you have a way to move forward in life or your career or your finances or whatnot. So, like I said, I've been living in Southeast Asia for 3 years. It's still not all rainbows and sunshine, even when you move. But I try to remember to have a sense of gratitude because I'm literally living in my biggest prayer. I'm able to meet people, and we have the most beautiful community. I've met so many incredible people. Even recently, I've been to conferences and I've been able to see and meet these incredible influencers who I have just admired and respected for the longest time. And so I would say the one thing that really matters when you're actually pursuing a dream is to get laser focused on what it is that you want, and to start to even brainstorm what that's actually going to look and feel like if you're able to step into that new reality, step into that goal, step into that dream. I remember I created like vision boards before I went. I had these pictures of coffees and matcha lattes and cool villas that I thought would be beautiful to live in, and even just the way I would dress. And it's so beautiful because I look at that picture now and I'm like, yeah, these are all things that I get to experience on a regular basis. And I think that is so powerful. So get super focused on what exactly it is that you want. Create that vision board because it's going to help you to picture it, to really start to anchor in how it's going to look, feel, smell, everything. And then I want you to make a list of all of the action steps that you have to do between now and your deadline. And so if you have 2 years to prepare, start to figure out how much exactly you need to save, start to figure out what kind of support you need, start to figure out all of the steps, whether it's logistics like visas or talking to a lawyer, all of these different things. I'm not sure exactly what your dream is, but every dream is going to have different things that you have to do in order to make it a reality. So start to break that down and brainstorm, do a brain dump, and make sure that you're clear on all those different steps. And then start to actually get out a planner or a diary and schedule some of those activities in. I really think that slow, consistent action is gonna still get you to your goal. And if you're someone who doesn't have kids and has a lot of free time, I would say just go all in because there's nothing really stopping you. That's the exciting thing is usually it's just our mind and the fears. And if you can get over those fears and get really clear on them, then you are just honestly gonna be able to make that dream a reality so much faster. So the last thing I want to say to encourage you is if I can do it, a girl from a very small island, then you can do it too. There's nothing holding you back except your own mindset. And if you need support, if you need coaching, if you need accountability from friends, find it and just make sure that you keep putting one step in front of the other. So now I want to hear from you. What is your big goal that you'd love to make a reality? I want you to drop it in the comments so that we can speak it out loud together. See you in the next video.